Imagine that you're a security guard on a late-night shift. You're leaning back in your chair with a cup of coffee in your hand. What is your reaction when the security camera footage suddenly shows something that shouldn't be there? Today, we're going to take a look at some creepy and disturbing security camera footage. "19-year-old Kenneka Jenkins attended a party at the Crowne Plaza Chicago O'Hare Hotel in Rosemont, Illinois on September 10th of 2017. She was a resident of the west side of Chicago, and her friends had invited her to the private venue for a night of careless and stress-free fun. Kenneka borrowed her mother's car and left the house at approximately 11:30 p.m. She arrived at the hotel at around 1:13 a.m. and her night began. Several witnesses from the party reported seeing Kenneka drink cognac, but she did not consume any drugs. One witness stated that she was not acting like herself. She would dance for a little while and then go sit down by herself. Kenneka spoke with her sister over the phone at 1:30 a.m. and then at around 3:20 a.m. she was captured on security cameras near the front desk. About 5 minutes later, she was seen leaving an elevator on one of the lower floors. Finally, at around 3:32 a.m., Kenneka was picked up by a security camera approaching the kitchen and then rounding the corner toward the freezer. Kenneka's mother, Teresa Martin, became worried when she was unable to get a hold of her daughter after 1 a.m. By around 2:30 a.m., Kenneka's family was reporting her missing to the hotel staff. About an hour after Kenneka had been recorded walking to the freezer, one of her friends called Teresa and told her that they could not find Kenneka and had left the party as a result. Teresa drove to the hotel to search for her daughter, and she arrived at around 5:30 a.m. She spoke with the hotel's management, who informed her that they could not give her access to the security cam footage until Kenneka was reported missing to the police. At 7:14 a.m., Teresa called the Rosemont Public Safety Department, who told her that it would be best to wait a few more hours before reporting Kenneka missing. At 12:46 p.m., Kenneka's sister, Leonore, filed a missing persons report with the police, who finally relayed the report to hotel management at 1:15 p.m. Teresa and Leonore returned to the hotel at around 6 p.m. and started knocking on doors from the top floor to the bottom. This effort did not turn up Kenneka or any information on her whereabouts. At around 10 p.m. on September 10th, a member of the hotel staff walked into the freezer but saw nothing. It was 2 hours later when Kenneka's body was finally found in the freezer. She was pronounced dead at 12:48 a.m. Her body had been lying on its side with one shoe missing. There were no signs of external trauma, meaning that her death had been accidental. The temperature of the freezer was approximately 34 degrees Fahrenheit, or 1 degree Celsius. The freezer was part of an unused kitchen whose lights had been off when Kenneka walked in. The space was apparently being leased to a restaurant at the time. The cause of death had been hypothermia, which was confirmed by lesions in Kenneka's stomach. The autopsy revealed that her blood alcohol level had been 0.112, which is high and obviously caused Kenneka to be severely impaired. Traces of topiramate were also found in her system. Topiramate is a drug that is most commonly used to treat epilepsy and migraines, neither of which Kenneka was known to get. The combination of alcohol and topiramate can increase the effects of both substances. According to the police, the credit card that was used to book the hotel room was fraudulent and it was linked to a Chicago area gang. This sparked rumors of foul play, but the investigation turned up no evidence of external factors in Kenneka's death. In 2018, Kenneka's family filed a $50 million lawsuit against the hotel, which was settled in 2023 for $10 million. The court found the hotel to have been negligent in securing the kitchen area, not to mention the time it took for them to review their security camera footage. Kenneka Jenkins' death is disturbing in and of itself, but the fact that her final moments were caught on camera makes you wonder whether or not she could have been saved if the hotel's management had been quicker to act. A Pacific Sun cruise ship was returning to Auckland, New Zealand from its 8-day trip to the Islands of Fire in Vanuatu in 2008. The ship had 1,732 passengers and 671 crew members aboard. It was just after dark and most of the passengers were getting ready for dinner when the ship encountered an unpredictably massive storm. The waves reached 23 feet and the winds were blowing at a speed of 50 knots. This caused the ship to rock violently, and one of the security cameras picked up the results from a room that looks like a bar. In total, 42 people were injured. This included broken ribs, limbs, and a collarbone, a fractured pelvis, and numerous cuts and gashes. Luckily, no one was killed, but I can't imagine how terrifying this incident was for the passengers. Terry Bevers, or Missy as most people knew her, was born on August 9th of 1970 in Graham, Texas. She married Brandon Bevers in 1998 and the couple had 3 daughters while living in Red Oak, Texas. Missy worked as a fitness instructor at a church 20 minutes away from her home. Her classes usually took place outside in the parking lot, but on April 18th of 2016, there were heavy rains that forced Missy to change her plans. She informed her students that the class would be held inside the church that day. She was seen entering the building at 4:18 a.m. to prepare for the class, which would begin at 5 a.m. Shortly after 5 a.m., one of Missy's students entered the church and accidentally stumbled across Missy's dead body. The student contacted the authorities, but it was too late. Missy was pronounced dead when the police arrived on scene. There were several puncture wounds to Missy's head and chest, and multiple tools were found near her body. The police began searching the church's security camera footage, and they found a chilling clue. At around 4 a.m., the cameras had picked up a person wearing a SWAT uniform with matching gear walking through the church. This person immediately became the #1 suspect. The leading theory on Missy's murder is that she encountered the unknown person by chance and they murdered her on the spot. The suspect's gender is unknown, but they did have an interesting gait. According to the police, the suspect walks slowly and sometimes steadies themselves by grabbing the wall. They also appeared to have trouble using their right foot or leg. In 2021, the police asked a forensic podiatrist named Dr. Michael Nierenberg to study the way the suspect moves. Dr. Nierenberg stated that the strange gait was most likely caused by the gear the suspect was wearing, and it had nothing to do with any medical condition or the person's gender. One of the initial theories behind the case was that the motive had been robbery, but the police noticed that Missy's purse and iPad were both still inside the church. There was also nothing else missing either. The police had to switch to a new theory, and a warrant they filed stated that the killer had specifically targeted Missy, but tried to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. The warrant also claimed that the suspect had a cell phone that he used to track Missy's schedule and record the murder. Further warrants filed by the police alleged that Missy had received several creepy messages from an unknown male on LinkedIn. They were able to track down someone whom Missy had spoken with on LinkedIn in the months leading up to her death, but the man claimed their conversation had been flirtatious and harmless. Missy's family members were all questioned during the investigation. Her husband, Brandon, and father-in-law, Randy, both had alibis that were confirmed. Both men had been out of state at the time. Randy had come under suspicion when he brought a bloody shirt to a dry cleaner, but he explained that it was dog blood from a fight he had witnessed. The police tested the blood and confirmed that it was from a dog. In May of 2016, the police announced that the owner of a Nissan Altima was a person of interest in the case. According to law enforcement, the car pulled into the parking lot of a sporting goods store near the church at around 2 a.m. on the morning of the murder, then left just a few minutes later. The police stated that the driver is not necessarily a suspect, but he may have seen something of value to the case. To this day, the owner of the vehicle remains unidentified, and nobody knows whether or not he has anything to do with Missy's murder. A reward of $10,000 for information helpful in catching the killer was offered initially, but that has since risen to $150,000. According to the police, they have received many tips, but none have ever led anywhere. Missy Bevers' murder remains unsolved to this day, and the person in this security cam footage walks freely amongst us.
Click the join button to become a member today. Channel members receive exclusive content as well as early access to all my content.
37-year-old Sammy Wallace was from Dallas, Texas, but he moved to Oklahoma in 2012. He had a rap sheet for violent crimes in Texas and ended up living at a homeless shelter in Oklahoma City. On July 3rd of 2013, Wallace entered a Walmart in Midwest City, Oklahoma, and saw a mother shopping with her 2-year-old daughter. The mother was Alicia Keating, and her daughter Zoe had accompanied her on the shopping trip. Wallace approached the pair and snatched Zoe out of the shopping cart. He produced a knife and held it to the little girl's stomach. Shocked onlookers scrambled to call the police, and before long, 2 hostage negotiators rushed to the store. Detective Daryl Miller and Captain David Huff attempted to reason with Wallace. They used various methods to persuade him to put Zoe down, but Wallace refused to listen. According to the officers, he kept rambling incoherently and making strange demands. We wanted to keep him calm. He was in this manic state where he was basically blurting out statements. At one point, the officers even gave Wallace a chair so they could sit down and talk it out, but there was no reasoning with him. They suspected that Wallace was mentally ill. When he started to speak, and he started making statements about the cameras are all watching us, it's the Illuminati, and George Bush is watching us, and he made reference to the CIA and that type of thing. Specifically, they believed Wallace had paranoid schizophrenia due to the nature of his ramblings. The incident lasted a total of 34 minutes. Toward the end, Wallace threatened to murder Zoe unless the officers brought in a Dallas police officer he had gone to school with. When he realized that wasn't going to happen, he started a 60-second countdown while moving the knife closer to Zoe's throat. Captain Huff had no doubt in his mind that Wallace would be true to his word, so he acted. When Wallace reached 5 in the countdown, Huff took a step forward, maneuvered his gun behind Zoe, and fired a shot into Wallace's head. A team of police officers immediately rushed forward and retrieved Zoe from Wallace's arms. Thankfully, she was safe and unharmed. Wallace died from the gunshot instantly. Captain Huff has been open about the trauma he suffered from that day. There's a feeling of failure. I know in my logical mind that taking his life most likely saved Zoe's life, and in my logical mind I know that is the choice that had to be made. but you still have this feeling that you failed because if you had succeeded, you would have thought of some way to do this without taking a life. He stated that he was afraid Zoe had already been cut by the time he decided to act. Oklahoma County District Attorney David Prater stated that Huff's actions were justified given the situation. After the shooting, Midwest City Police searched Wallace's apartment and found a notebook and 3-ring binder full of religious writings. This situation was horrifying for everyone involved. I can't imagine going through that and the trauma in the aftermath. Zoe was shaken up by the ordeal, but she got back to normal soon after.